Well, this one is long overdue. One of my older videos is titled Some Recommendations for Functional Swords Under $150. And recently a few people reminded me that I said I was going to make more videos in that style, talking about different price ranges. And when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, right, that it has been a while, I should do that now. And I looked at it and found out that I made the video in December 2014. So, yes, it has been a while. That's what happens when I don't write down things on my physical to-do list immediately. Because I always keep coming up with new ideas and prioritize other stuff, and then things get left behind. But let's get to it right now. So, $150 to $300, not wall hangers, but stuff that you could actually use. What is there? I'm just going to go to Cult of Athena, because, as I mentioned before, that's generally the website I recommend because they have pretty low prices, they have a very wide selection, they do international shipping, and very importantly, they have high quality pictures and a lot of information. I'm just going to go to the medieval category because it seems to me that more people are interested in medieval swords than, say, Renaissance or Dark Ages or even Ancient. So, good thing you can do always is click on Show Battle Ready Only and sort by price. So, let's start out here. I don't think... No, there's pretty much nothing around 150 that I can really recommend here. Windlass is hit or miss, as I've mentioned before, so you never quite know what you're getting. Also, if you want to order a windlass sword and you plan to do it for to use it for test cutting, remember to check the sharpening service, and also keep in mind that the sharpening service isn't great. I mean, the way Cult of Athena does it, it's somewhat sharp. Yes, it's better than it is by default because with those, they barely have an edge at all. Like, the standard windlass blades are pretty much blunt. It doesn't cut anything at all. So that would require a lot of intensive grinding to even get that to a point where you can hone it into a proper edge. With the sharpening service, you get something that's okay-ish. Not the greatest edge, but it does cut. Hanwei is, again, a bit of a tricky situation because some of their swords are pretty bad in the sense that they're not well enough assembled, they can get damaged if you use them for cutting, and the edge is not great, usually. However, some of them are really good, and I'm going to show you a few examples here. The Hanwei Tinker. So these were designed in collaboration with Michael Tinker Pierce, who is a well-established bladesmith, and these here are good. These are historically accurate. They are very simplified. If you look at the hilt here, this is as simple and plain as it gets. Very, very simple shape, very simple leather wrap. There's nothing fancy about it whatsoever. They are very plain, but they are functional, and that's what matters. So they handle well, they have the appropriate weight, and all of that, everything good about them. So that's definitely an option, but they have become a little scarce. Then there's the Hanwei Tinker Norman sword. This one I've actually handled myself in a store and seems really good as far as handling is concerned. And once again, it's peened, so this is... I mean, the guard could still loosen up if you strike hard targets with it, especially if you do any kinds of abuse, like chopping wood or something, then you may still get a bit of rattling in the hilt, but overall they're well designed, well put together. I've also read good things about their Great Sword of War, and there have been some positive reviews, and this one is good if you're looking for something more substantial, like a more dedicated cutting sword. This is a little heavier, and it should cut pretty well, at least if you sharpen it a little bit. As said, the standard edge is not the greatest, but at least the way the blade profile is overall, from what I've seen, it's not that difficult to sharpen it yourself, so you don't have to do a whole lot of grinding. So not too bad, really. I own this one here, the Hanwei Tinker longsword, and there is a review of it on my channel. I've now given it to a friend as a birthday gift, and this is pretty good quality. The nice thing about it is that the blades are available separately, as is the case for the single-handed one. And so you can have the blunt version for HEMA practice, actual sparring, or technique drills, or whatever. And you can then also have the sharpened version for cutting practice. So these are very easily exchangeable. The only thing is, if you want to use it for practice, especially sparring, I would recommend using it against another Hanwei, ideally another one of the same type, because I found the steel is kind of on the soft side. Ronin katana is certainly easy to recommend. I've reviewed this one here, the Viking sword, and nothing at all wrong with it. Well built, well put together, and you can do abusive testing with it, no problem. It cuts pretty well. The default edge is decent. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. And they also have other ones like this arming sword. They do come with scabbards, so that's nice. Wolflund, I've only had one sword from them, a Celtic one. Wasn't too impressed with the finish overall, but as far as I know, there are several blacksmiths that make swords for them, so not everyone may be the same. So I can't really say much about those. Dynasty Forge, again, easy to recommend. I've done a review of their Duelist, and that was really well put together. These here also look pretty good as far as the stats are concerned. They're not too heavy. Point of balance, all seems good. And this one apparently is very sharp. There's an extra R in there, so you know it's super sharp. Anyway. So yeah, these look pretty good. Dark Sword, I can't say much about. I actually have one of their long swords here right now. It was sent to me recently, and I haven't gotten around to testing it yet. What I can say so far is that the blade is way too flexible and the edge is terrible. Otherwise, however, it does seem well made in the sense that it is peened and it seems pretty decent. So there's no looseness or anything, so it's all, you know, properly assembled, sturdy. But that's really all I can say right now. Del Tin is outside the budget for this one. I couldn't say much about them anyway. It would just be based on the reviews I've read because I've never handled one of those. And let's also take a look at a few others. Let's do Ancient, because why not? They are not covered that often. Yeah, I think I already talked about the Pika and the other one. The Devil's Edge Xiphos, I'm still in the process of testing and reviewing. So far, very positive impressions, so I would recommend it at this point, even though I still have to do some more tests, and we'll have to see how that goes. Then we've got, again, Windlass. The classic hoplite sword, I've read positive reviews of. This one is threaded. Personally, I'm not a fan of that, at least when it comes to cheaper swords. There are higher end swords, you know, $500 and up, which are threaded. They're usually attached with a nut, and that's fine. Those are, you know, there's no problem with them. And I have tested threaded windlass swords that did not fall apart even when doing hard abusive testing. But I've also had some where the tang at the end bent and the pommel kept loosening up when you don't want it to. And, you know, various problems, guard loosening up, starting to rattle, things like that. So there's that. In general, as far as windlass is concerned, I would say if you find one that you really like, that really suits your taste, then I would say, yeah, you can try it, because they are really affordable, very much so. So there's not too much you can do wrong. Something like this, the falcata, seems pretty decent. I mean, it's not going to be the most historically accurate that you can get, and their quality control can be a little shaky sometimes. So it's a to an extent it's a matter of luck, I have to say. But overall, I've had more positive than negative experiences with Windlass. Then you have legacy arms, which I've personally not tried, but I've seen plenty of reviews, and they seem to be, again, on the overbuilt side of things. They are extremely sturdy, and they can take one hell of a beating. I've seen all kinds of abusive tests, and they fare pretty well. But they, again, tend to be kind of extra thick and clunky. I mean, you can see right here, that's really, really thick. So not the most historically accurate version, and not the greatest handling necessarily, but, you know, that's just from what I've seen. Scorpion swords, no idea. But then we also start getting into the higher price range. So this is already over 300. So let's return to, say, Dark Age. Just want to see if I missed any major manufacturer. It's still tin. Niello swords, no idea. I've never tried. Haven't seen much information about them. The Windlass Viking swords are generally pretty good, by the way. There is one Viking sword by Windlass that I tested way back in 2009 or so. It doesn't seem to be here anymore, but this one I've read positive reviews of. Seems pretty similar in construction and stats to the one that I reviewed, so I think it should be pretty good. A few words about rapiers. Unfortunately, I've not found any high quality reproductions in this price range. For a while, I read through tons and tons of reviews because I was looking for something under $500, and the same recurring problems over and over again. The cheaper ones, usually, for one, they don't get the handling quite right very often, and also they tend to be overly flexible, like almost radio antenna levels of whippy. So not great for a rapier, specifically the Hanwei and Windlass ones. Those are the frequent complaints that I've read. So keep in mind that's, again, a few years ago. They may have improved things, I don't know, but I just don't particularly trust. I was almost going to say I don't thrust them. Yeah, right, rapiers. I don't particularly trust them at this point. For sabers, there's also universal swords. They're made in India, just like Windlass, and I've reviewed this one here. They are okay for the price, I would say. I was not impressed, but decent enough put together. Again, they come unsharpened, so you have to add sharpening surface. And they do take a bit of a beating, but on this one here, the guard has started to loosen up. And so, yeah, as said, it's all right, but it's not my first choice, personally. If you're interested in these kinds of swords, I can recommend traditional Filipino weapons. We've owned several of their blades. I still have the Karambid. We've owned the Chris, number 4, I think. Yeah, this one here. That was way back in 2009. And one of the Zanzibars, the Espada Idaga. And those are all really well made. The Zanzibar we used to have was a bit too soft during one cutting test. The blade bent. But of course, like I've said many times, bending is generally better than breaking in case of swords. And otherwise, yeah, they look good. They are really nice, and fit and finish is flawless. No complaints there. They come properly sharp, so yeah, worth considering. And the final manufacturer I want to recommend is Valiant Armoury. These are made by Angus Trim, refitted by Valiant Armoury. And in general, if you see any Angus Trim or A-Trim blades, those are really well made. So that's always a good choice. They have become apparently a bit hard to find, but through Valiant Armoury you can still find them. And there are some customization options. The price is, yeah, there's plenty of value for the money. So more than appropriate, especially the falchion seems, you know, like one of the highest quality swords you can find at this price. And that's it for right now. If there are any makers that you're wondering about, which I haven't mentioned yet, that doesn't mean that they're bad. It may just be that either I forgot to mention them, or I just don't know about them, or whatever. So these are just a few examples, and I hope that helps if you're trying to find something in this price range. And I'll try to not take 1.5 years before making the next video of this type, but no promises. Anyway, thanks for watching.